Hello and welcome. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to build wealth almost effortlessly while others work hard and stay stuck, you're in the right place. This audiobook is not about shortcuts or hype. It is about the invisible thinking patterns that quietly shape financial outcomes long before money ever shows up. What you are about to hear is a journey into the psychology behind wealth, how decisions are made, how comfort is delayed, how risk is understood, and how long-term vision is built one thought at a time. This is an exploration of mindset, discipline, and emotional control, not from theory, but from real human behavior that repeats itself across cultures and generations. As you listen, you may begin to notice subtle shifts in how you interpret opportunity, effort, and time. Ideas that once felt distant may start to feel practical. Patterns you never questioned may suddenly become visible. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about refining the way you think so your actions begin working in your favor. There is no pressure to rush, no promise of instant results, just a clear, steady understanding of how wealth is actually built from the inside out. Settle in, listen closely, and allow this perspective to reshape the way you approach decisions, progress, and possibility. Chapter 1c. The moment you stop thinking like everyone else, there comes a point in life when you begin to notice something subtle but unsettling. You realize that many of the decisions you've been making were never truly yours. They were inherited from family expectations, social norms, workplace culture, and the quiet pressure to fit in. This moment does not arrive with clarity all at once. It often begins as discomfort, a feeling that despite doing what is expected, the results don't match the effort. You start sensing that following the same paths as everyone else leads to the same outcomes. This is the moment your thinking begins to separate. Most people move through life reacting. They respond to urgency, to comparison, to fear of falling behind. They work harder when things feel uncertain, spend more when they feel stressed, and delay reflection because stillness feels unproductive. Thinking like everyone else means accepting these patterns as normal. But the moment you stop thinking this way, you start questioning the logic behind them. You begin to notice that business is praised more than effectiveness. That exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor. That stability is often confused with progress. When you step back, you see that many people are running, but few know where they are going. This realization is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront a difficult truth: effort alone does not guarantee advancement. Independent thinking begins with observation. You start watching how people make decisions under pressure. You notice how fear drives short-term choices. You see how comfort becomes the default goal even when it quietly limits growth. This awareness changes how you interpret advice. You stop accepting opinions simply because they are common. You start asking whether those opinions actually produce the results you want. This shift often creates distance. When you stop thinking like everyone else, you may feel out of sync with familiar conversations. You are less interested in complaints and more interested in patterns, less focused on appearances and more focused on outcomes. This does not make you better. It makes you more intentional. Real life examples of this moment appear everywhere. Someone realizes that working longer hours has not improved their situation. Another notices that spending to feel successful has only increased anxiety. A third recognizes that chasing approval has cost them clarity. In each case, the turning point is the same: a refusal to keep repeating behavior that does not lead forward. Thinking differently does not mean rejecting society. It means questioning defaults. It means asking why certain paths are celebrated while others are ignored. It means understanding that popular choices often lead to crowded outcomes. When too many people follow the same route, competition increases and leverage disappears. This moment also reshapes how you see time. Instead of asking how to get faster results, you begin asking how to build durable ones. Instead of copying strategies that worked once, you focus on principles that work consistently. You start valuing patience over urgency, clarity over noise. There is fear in this transition. Thinking independently means taking responsibility for outcomes. You can no longer blame systems or circumstances as easily. But with that responsibility comes control. You stop waiting for permission. You begin designing your approach deliberately. This is not rebellion. It is awareness. It is the understanding that thinking like everyone else may feel safe, but it rarely leads somewhere meaningful. When you step away from the crowd mentally, you create space to see opportunities others overlook. This moment does not make you wealthy overnight. It does something more important. It changes the direction of your decisions. And once direction changes, results eventually follow. Stopping the habit of thinking like everyone else is not about becoming extraordinary. It is about becoming intentional. It is the quiet beginning of a mindset that no longer reacts, but chooses. And from that point forward, nothing about progress feels accidental again. Chapter 2: Why wealth is decided long before money appears. Wealth is often mistaken for a moment, an increase in income, a big opportunity, a sudden breakthrough. But in reality, wealth is decided much earlier, in places that are invisible and easy to ignore. It is decided in how you think when no one is watching, in how you make choices when the reward is delayed, and in how you respond to situations long before money is ever involved. Most people believe money changes behavior. Millionaire Psychology understands the opposite: behavior changes money. Long before wealth shows up externally, it is forming internally through patterns of thinking. The way you treat time, the way you respond to discomfort, the way you interpret opportunity. These decisions shape your financial future quietly, often years before results become visible. Consider how most people approach their early working years. The focus is immediate relief, paying bills, upgrading lifestyle, reducing stress through spending. There is nothing wrong with wanting comfort, but the mindset behind these choices matters. If every increase in income is immediately consumed, the habit being reinforced is dependency, not growth. The numbers may increase, but the structure stays fragile. Wealth-oriented thinking works differently. It asks questions before money arrives. How do I position myself for future value? What skills will matter over time? How do I reduce reliance on constant effort? These questions guide behavior even when income is modest. The thinking comes first. The money follows later. This is why two people earning the same amount can end up in completely different places. One views income as permission to spend. The other views it as a tool to build options. The difference is not intelligence. It is timing. Wealth-focused thinking delays gratification in favor of leverage. Another invisible decision happens around learning. Many people stop learning once formal education ends. They assume knowledge is complete. But wealth is built in changing environments. Those who continue learning adapt faster. They recognize patterns earlier. They spot shifts before they become obvious. This habit of continuous learning compounds long before it pays financially. Risk perception also plays a role. Before money appears, you are already deciding how you view uncertainty. Some avoid it at all costs. Others learn to evaluate it. Those who develop comfort with calculated risk early gain confidence in decision-making. By the time money is involved, they are not paralyzed, they are prepared. Even how you define success matters. If success means appearing successful, spending increases. If success means becoming capable, investment increases. These definitions are formed early. They influence behavior quietly and consistently. Real-life examples make this clear. Someone who chooses to live slightly below their means while building skills may appear stagnant for years. Another who upgrades lifestyle quickly may appear ahead. But over time, the first gains flexibility and control, while the second becomes trapped by fixed obligations. The outcomes were decided long before the financial difference became visible. Wealth is also shaped by how you treat effort. If effort is always exchanged for immediate reward, growth remains linear. If effort is invested into systems, skills, and structures, growth becomes exponential. This choice is made repeatedly, often without conscious awareness. Patience is another early decision. Many people abandon paths that take time because results feel slow. But slow progress is not the same as no progress. Wealth-oriented thinking understands that compounding requires time. Quitting early resets the process every time. Long before money appears, habits are forming. Spending habits, learning habits, decision habits. These habits either prepare you to handle wealth or prevent you from keeping it. This is why sudden money often disappears. It arrives before the mindset is ready to support it. When wealth finally shows up, it feels natural to those who prepared for it. They are not surprised by responsibility. They have already practiced discipline, planning, and restraint. Money becomes a multiplier, not a burden. Understanding that wealth is decided early removes impatience. You stop waiting for external change and start refining internal structure. You realize that what you are building now, your thinking habits and responses, is shaping results you haven't seen yet. Money is only the visible outcome of years of invisible decisions. When those decisions are aligned with long-term thinking, wealth becomes a matter of time, not chance. Chapter 3. The hidden beliefs that separate earners from builders. At a surface level, earners and builders may look the same. They wake up early, put in effort, and appear responsible. But beneath the surface, their beliefs about money, work, and control are fundamentally different. These beliefs operate quietly, shaping decisions long before results appear. Most people never question them, which is why the gap between earners and builders continues to widen over time. Earners believe income is the goal. Builders believe income is only a starting point. This single belief changes everything. An earner focuses on stability. They want predictable pay, clear instructions, and defined boundaries. There is comfort in knowing exactly what will happen next. Builders, on the other hand, prioritize ownership and leverage. They accept uncertainty in exchange for control. Where earners ask, "How much will I make this month?" Builders ask, "What am I creating that can grow without my constant presence?" These beliefs influence daily behavior. Earners optimize for efficiency within a system they don't own. Builders optimize for creating systems themselves. Earners trade time for money and try to increase the rate. Builders work to disconnect income from time entirely. Another hidden belief involves responsibility. Earners often believe responsibility lies outside themselves. Management decisions, market conditions, company policies. Builders believe responsibility begins internally. They assume outcomes are shaped by their choices, not circumstances. This belief creates adaptability. When conditions change, builders adjust. Earners wait. Fear also shows up differently. Earners fear instability. Builders fear stagnation. An earner may avoid new paths because they feel unsafe. A builder avoids staying in the same place because it feels limiting. Both fears are valid, but they lead to opposite actions. There is also a difference in how effort is valued. Earners believe hard work is enough. Builders believe hard work must be directed. They understand that effort without strategy leads to exhaustion. Builders regularly pause to evaluate whether their actions create future value or only immediate reward. This is why some people work harder every year and feel no closer to freedom. Their belief system keeps them focused on short-term output instead of long-term structure. Real life examples reveal this clearly. Two people receive the same income increase. One upgrades lifestyle. The other invests in skill development or asset creation. Both feel justified. Years later, their trajectories look nothing alike. The difference was not income, it was belief. Another hidden belief involves learning. Earners often believe learning is optional once competence is achieved. Builders believe learning is continuous. They stay curious because they understand that relevance changes. This belief allows builders to stay ahead of shifts that leave others behind. Time perception is another divider. Earners think in weeks and months. Builders think in years. Short timelines encourage consumption. Long timelines encourage construction. Builders tolerate slow progress because they understand compounding. Earners grow frustrated because results don't arrive quickly. Even success is interpreted differently. Earners see success as proof to relax. Builders see success as responsibility to expand. One slows down, the other doubles down strategically. These beliefs are rarely taught. They are absorbed from environment, upbringing, and experience. And because they feel normal, they go unquestioned. But questioning them is essential. You cannot build something lasting with a mindset designed only to earn. Shifting from earner to builder does not mean abandoning work. It means redefining its purpose. Work becomes a tool, not an identity. Income becomes a resource, not a finish line. Once these beliefs change, Behavior follows naturally. You begin looking for leverage instead of labor. You prioritize ownership over approval. You value flexibility over familiarity. The separation between earners and builders is not created by opportunity, it is created by belief. And once belief changes, the direction of effort changes with it, quietly, steadily, and permanently. Chapter 4. How millionaires train their minds to delay comfort. The ability to delay comfort is one of the most misunderstood forces behind long-term wealth. From the outside, it looks like sacrifice. From the inside, it feels like control. Millionaire psychology does not reject comfort. It simply refuses to prioritize it at the wrong time. This distinction changes how decisions are made every single day. Most people are trained to seek relief. When stress appears, they look for distraction. When effort increases, they look for reward. Comfort becomes a coping mechanism, not a conscious choice. Over time, this pattern conditions the mind to associate progress with immediate pleasure. The result is short bursts of effort, followed by long periods of stagnation. Millionaires train their minds differently. They learn to sit with discomfort without reacting to it. Not because they enjoy discomfort, but because they understand its temporary nature. They recognize that discomfort is often a signal of growth, not danger. This understanding allows them to pause instead of escape. Delaying comfort begins with awareness. You start noticing how often you trade future benefit for present ease, choosing rest instead of finishing a task, spending to feel better instead of addressing the source of stress, avoiding difficult conversations to maintain peace. These choices feel harmless in isolation, but repeated over time, they shape outcomes. The training happens in small moments. Choosing preparation over entertainment, choosing learning over distraction, choosing progress over appearance. Each decision strengthens the ability to tolerate short-term discomfort for long-term gain. This tolerance becomes a skill, one that compounds quietly. Real-life examples make this clear. One person uses free time to escape pressure. Another uses the same time to build capability. The difference is not enjoyment, it is intention. One choice provides immediate relief. The other builds future freedom. Over time, these choices separate trajectories. Delaying comfort also changes emotional resilience. When you stop reacting immediately, emotions lose control over behavior. You no longer feel compelled to act on impulse. This creates stability. Stability allows clearer thinking. Clear thinking leads to better decisions. Another aspect of this training involves redefining reward. Instead of rewarding effort with consumption, millionaires reward consistency with progress. The satisfaction comes from momentum, not indulgence. This shift reduces dependence on external validation and material reassurance. Importantly, delaying comfort is not about deprivation. It is about timing. Comfort is enjoyed later when it no longer compromises growth. This approach makes comfort more meaningful because it is chosen, not used as an escape. Over time, this mindset reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs relief to continue. You begin seeing yourself as someone who can persist calmly. This self-image builds confidence rooted in capability, not circumstances. The ability to delay comfort also protects focus. When you are not constantly seeking relief, attention remains available for meaningful work. Focus deepens. Progress accelerates, not because of intensity, but because of consistency. This training is subtle. There are no dramatic moments, no visible milestones. But over years, the difference becomes undeniable. Those who mastered delayed comfort accumulate options. Those who didn't accumulate obligations. Millionaire psychology understands that comfort is expensive when chosen too early. It costs flexibility, growth, and long-term freedom. By delaying it intentionally, you buy time, leverage, and control. Eventually, comfort arrives naturally, not as a goal, but as a byproduct of disciplined choices. And when it does, it no longer feels fragile. It feels earned, stable, and sustainable. This is how the mind is trained, not through force, but through repeated decisions that favor long-term alignment over short-term ease. And this training quietly lays the foundation for outcomes that most people never reach. Not because they couldn't, but because they chose comfort too soon. Chapter 5: Risk, Fear, and the Psychology of Smart Decisions. Risk is one of the most misunderstood elements of wealth. Most people believe risk is something to avoid, something dangerous that threatens stability. But in reality, risk is unavoidable. The real difference is not whether you face risk, but how you understand and manage it. Millionaire psychology does not eliminate fear. It learns how to interpret it correctly. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty. It evolved to protect you from danger. But in modern life, fear often reacts to imagined threats rather than real ones. A difficult decision, a new opportunity, or an unfamiliar path can trigger the same emotional response as physical danger, even when the actual risk is manageable. Most people allow this fear to decide for them. Millionaires do not. The first psychological shift is recognizing that avoiding risk is itself a risk. Staying in familiar situations may feel safe, but it often leads to stagnation. When growth is avoided long enough, the cost becomes invisible but significant. Opportunities pass quietly, skills become outdated, options narrow. This slow erosion rarely feels dramatic, which is why it is often ignored. Smart decision-making begins with separating emotion from evaluation. Instead of asking, "What if this goes wrong?" Millionaire psychology asks, "What happens if I do nothing?" This reframing exposes hidden risks that fear usually hides. It brings long-term consequences into focus, not just immediate discomfort. Another critical difference lies in preparation. Reckless risk is taken without understanding. Smart risk is taken with awareness. Millionaires study scenarios. They consider worst-case outcomes and plan responses. This preparation reduces emotional intensity. Fear becomes manageable when uncertainty is defined. Real-life examples make this clear. Someone considering a new venture may focus only on potential failure. A smarter approach examines recovery options. Can skills transfer? Can losses be absorbed? Can lessons be reused? When recovery is possible, risk becomes a calculated decision rather than a threat. Fear also changes when decisions are aligned with long-term vision. Short-term thinkers fear mistakes because they feel permanent. Long-term thinkers understand that mistakes are temporary events within a longer process. This perspective reduces pressure. Decisions feel lighter because they are no longer seen as final judgments. Another psychological advantage comes from experience. Each time you take a calculated risk and survive, even if the outcome is imperfect, confidence grows. Fear loses credibility. You begin trusting your ability to respond rather than trying to predict everything in advance. This trust becomes a powerful asset. Many people wait for fear to disappear before acting. It never does. Millionaire psychology accepts fear as part of the process. Action is not taken because fear is gone, but because clarity is stronger. This distinction allows movement where others remain stuck. Smart decisions are also guided by values. When choices align with purpose, fear becomes easier to tolerate. Discomfort feels meaningful instead of threatening. This alignment creates internal stability even when external outcomes are uncertain. Over time, this approach builds decision-making strength. You stop reacting emotionally. You start responding strategically. Each decision reinforces the belief that you can handle uncertainty. This belief compounds. Risk does not disappear as wealth grows. In many ways, it increases. But the psychology around it changes. Fear no longer controls behavior. It informs it. Decisions become thoughtful, measured, and deliberate. Understanding risk correctly does not guarantee success, but misunderstanding it almost guarantees limitation. Millionaire psychology chooses awareness over avoidance, preparation over panic, and long-term evaluation over short-term comfort. This is how smart decisions are made, not by eliminating fear, but by refusing to let fear decide. Chapter 60, The Power of Thinking in Systems. Not paychecks. For most people, work is measured in hours and rewarded through paychecks. This way of thinking feels logical because it is familiar. You give time, you receive money. The problem is not that this model exists. The problem is when it becomes the only way you understand value. Millionaire psychology breaks away from paycheck thinking and replaces it with systems thinking, and that shift changes everything. A paycheck represents presence. A system represents structure. When you think in paychecks, your income is directly tied to how often you show up. If you stop, the money stops. This creates dependency. It forces you to prioritize short-term security over long-term freedom. Systems thinking works differently. It asks how value can continue to flow even when you are not actively involved. This question alone rewires how effort is applied. Systems are built intentionally. They require planning, patience, and refinement. In the beginning, they often pay less than direct effort. This is why many people abandon them early. The early stages feel inefficient compared to immediate income. But systems are not designed for speed. They are designed for sustainability and scale. Real-life examples of systems exist everywhere. A person who documents knowledge once and allows it to be reused repeatedly. A process that automates repetitive tasks. A structure that allows decisions to be made without constant oversight. Each of these reduces dependency on constant effort. Over time, the return exceeds what linear work can provide. Thinking in systems also changes how you view problems. Instead of asking how to work harder, you ask how to remove friction. Instead of fixing symptoms repeatedly, you redesign the process that creates them. This approach saves energy and increases consistency. Another advantage of systems thinking is predictability. When outcomes depend only on effort, results fluctuate with energy levels and circumstances. Systems create stability. They reduce emotional stress because progress no longer feels fragile. This stability allows better long-term planning. Systems also create leverage. Leverage multiplies results without multiplying effort. This could be through tools, processes, delegation, or structure. Paycheck thinking limits leverage because time is finite. Systems expand capacity because they operate continuously. Many people resist systems thinking because it requires delayed gratification. Building systems feels uncomfortable at first. There is uncertainty. There is effort without immediate reward. But Millionaire Psychology understands that this discomfort is temporary. Once a system is in place, effort decreases while results increase. Another important shift is ownership. Paychecks reward participation. Systems reward ownership. Ownership provides control over direction and growth. It allows adaptation when conditions change. Without ownership, progress depends on decisions made by others. Systems thinking also influences learning. You begin acquiring skills that support structure, not just output. You learn how to design workflows, manage resources, and optimize processes. These skills compound because they can be applied repeatedly across different situations. Over time, systems thinking reduces burnout. Effort becomes strategic instead of constant. Energy is spent on design rather than repetition. This preserves focus and creativity. The power of systems lies in their invisibility. Once they work, they fade into the background. Results continue without noise. This quiet effectiveness is what makes them so valuable and why they are often overlooked. Paychecks feel safe because they are familiar. Systems feel uncertain because they are unfamiliar. But long-term stability is rarely found in familiarity. It is built through intentional design. When you stop thinking only in paychecks and start thinking in systems, your relationship with work changes. Effort becomes an investment instead of an exchange. Time becomes a resource instead of a limit. And progress becomes something you build, not something you wait for. This shift does not happen overnight. But once it begins, it permanently changes how value is created, sustained, and multiplied over time. Chapter 7. Why emotional control outperforms intelligence. Intelligence is often celebrated as the ultimate advantage. But intelligence without emotional control is unstable. It creates sharp ideas with fragile execution. In moments of pressure, emotion decides speed, direction, and persistence. Millionaire Psychology understands this clearly. The ability to regulate emotion consistently produces better outcomes than raw intellect ever could. Emotions influence decisions before logic has time to intervene. Stress narrows focus. Excitement inflates confidence. Fear exaggerates consequences. When emotions dominate, even the smartest plans collapse. Emotional control does not remove feeling. It creates space between feeling and action. In that space, judgment improves. Most people believe emotional control means suppressing emotion. It does not. Suppression creates pressure that eventually leaks out through impulsive behavior. Control means awareness. It means noticing emotion without letting it dictate behavior. This awareness allows you to respond rather than react. Consider how people behave under pressure. Some panic and rush decisions. Others freeze and avoid action. A few remain calm, gather information, and adjust. The difference is not intelligence, it is emotional regulation. Calm thinking preserves clarity. Clarity preserves options. Emotional control also protects long-term thinking. When emotions spike, time horizons shrink. Decisions become short-sighted. Relief becomes the goal. This is why impulsive choices feel good briefly and costly later. Regulated emotion keeps the future visible even when the present feels intense. Real-life examples reveal this clearly. A sudden setback triggers frustration. One person reacts by quitting or blaming circumstances. Another pauses, reassesses, and modifies approach. The outcome diverges not because of knowledge, but because of emotional management. Over time, these moments compound into entirely different trajectories. Another advantage of emotional control is consistency. Intelligence can fluctuate with fatigue and stress. Emotional stability keeps behavior steady. Steady behavior builds momentum. Momentum creates reliability. Reliability compounds into trust in yourself and from others. Emotional control also reduces decision fatigue. When emotions are regulated, fewer decisions feel urgent. You stop chasing immediate validation. You stop overreacting to minor setbacks. This conserves energy for choices that truly matter. There is also a relationship between emotional control and confidence. Confidence rooted in emotion rises and falls quickly. Confidence rooted in regulation is stable. You trust your ability to respond to uncertainty rather than trying to eliminate it. This trust allows measured risk-taking and patient execution. Training emotional control happens through repetition. You notice triggers. You pause before responding. You choose deliberate action even when discomfort is present. Each successful pause strengthens regulation. Over time, this becomes automatic. Importantly, emotional control does not mean becoming detached. It means staying engaged without being overwhelmed. You still care about outcomes. You simply refuse to let emotion distort judgment. This balance allows sustained performance. Intelligence may help you see opportunities. Emotional control allows you to keep them. Many people identify the right move and still fail to execute it because emotion interferes. Control bridges the gap between insight and action. As challenges grow, emotional demands increase. Without regulation, complexity becomes overwhelming. With regulation, complexity becomes manageable. This is why emotional control scales better than intelligence alone. When you prioritize emotional control, your thinking becomes clearer under pressure. Your actions become consistent. Your decisions become repeatable. Over time, this reliability produces results that appear effortless from the outside. In the end, intelligence opens doors, but emotional control determines whether you walk through them calmly, deliberately, and prepared. This is why, over the long run, emotional control quietly outperforms intelligence, and why it becomes one of the most valuable assets in building durable success. Chapter 80. Building Wealth by Mastering Long-Term Vision. Long-term vision is the discipline of seeing beyond the moment you are standing in. It is the ability to act today with an understanding of where those actions will place you years from now. Most people live inside short timelines. They plan for relief, not results. They optimize for comfort this month instead of capability over time. Mastering long-term vision changes this orientation completely. Long-term vision does not begin with predicting the future. It begins with defining direction. You decide what kind of life you are building, what kind of problems you want to solve, and what kind of freedom matters to you. This clarity becomes a filter. Choices that align with the direction gain importance. Choices that distract lose appeal. People without long-term vision often feel busy yet stagnant. They make decisions based on urgency. They react to pressure. Their energy is spent managing consequences instead of shaping outcomes. Vision replaces reaction with intention. It stretches your time horizon and forces you to consider second and third-order effects of your actions. One of the most powerful effects of long-term vision is patience. When you understand where you are headed, temporary delays no longer feel threatening. Slow progress stops feeling like failure. You remain engaged because you can see beyond the current phase. This patience is not passive, it is strategic. It allows you to stay consistent without burning out. Real-life examples of long-term vision are often unremarkable at first. Someone chooses to develop a skill that won't pay immediately. Another invests time in building relationships without expecting instant return. A third resists upgrading lifestyle to preserve flexibility. None of these choices look impressive in the moment. Over time, they compound into leverage. Long-term vision also stabilizes decision-making. When faced with opportunity, you are less tempted by short-term gain if it pulls you off course. You become selective. You evaluate whether an option accelerates or delays your trajectory. This selectivity protects focus and reduces regret. Another benefit is resilience. When setbacks occur, and they will, vision keeps you grounded. You understand that obstacles are part of the process, not signals to quit. You adapt instead of abandoning direction. This adaptability keeps progress intact even when conditions change. Vision also shapes how you measure success. Instead of comparing outcomes constantly, you evaluate alignment. Are your actions consistent with the future you are building? This internal metric reduces comparison and anxiety. You stop racing others and start refining your own path. Long-term vision influences daily behavior in subtle ways. It changes how you spend time, what you learn, and who you listen to. You prioritize depth over novelty. You invest in systems rather than shortcuts. Over time, this creates a foundation that can support growth without instability. Many people avoid long-term thinking because it requires responsibility. When you choose direction, you can no longer blame confusion for inaction. But with that responsibility comes clarity. Clarity simplifies decisions and reduces emotional friction. Mastering long-term vision does not mean ignoring the present. It means using the present deliberately. Each day becomes a building block rather than a distraction. Progress may feel slow, but it is structured. Structure creates predictability. Predictability builds confidence. As years pass, the advantage becomes visible. While others restart repeatedly, you continue. While others chase trends, you deepen capability. The gap widens not because you moved faster, but because you stayed consistent longer. Building wealth through long-term vision is not about sacrificing life today. It is about designing life so that effort today improves options tomorrow. When vision guides behavior, wealth becomes a natural outcome of alignment rather than a constant pursuit. This mastery is quiet. It does not announce itself, but it shapes decisions, protects focus, and compounds results until progress feels inevitable, not because of luck, but because the path was chosen with intention and followed with patience. Chapter 9. The mental habits that turn income into assets. Income by itself does not create wealth. Many people earn well for years and still feel financially fragile. Others earn modestly and build long-term stability. The difference is not how much money comes in, but how the mind is trained to handle it. Wealth is not built by income alone. It is built by mental habits that consistently convert income into assets. The first habit is intentional allocation. Most people treat income as something to be spent after necessities are covered. Whatever remains is considered optional. This habit keeps money temporary. A wealth-focused mindset reverses this order. Before lifestyle decisions are made, income is given a purpose. A portion is assigned to growth, learning, ownership, or long-term positioning. This habit turns money into a tool instead of a reward. Another critical habit is resisting emotional spending. Income often triggers emotion, relief, excitement, validation. When money is used to manage emotion, it disappears quickly. People spend to feel successful, to feel safe, or to escape stress. Over time, this creates a cycle where money provides comfort but no security. Asset-building habits interrupt this cycle. They pause before spending and ask whether the purchase creates future value or only temporary relief. Mental habits also shape how increases in income are handled. Many people upgrade lifestyle immediately when earnings rise. Expenses grow to match income, and pressure returns. Wealth-oriented thinking delays this upgrade. Instead of expanding obligations, it expands options. Flexibility becomes the priority. This habit protects progress and prevents income growth from becoming a trap. Another habit involves how money is viewed. To many, money is a finish line. To a wealth-focused mind, money is raw material. It is something to be shaped, positioned, and multiplied. This perspective encourages learning about value creation rather than consumption. You begin asking how money can work beyond the moment it is earned. The habit of reinvestment is also essential. Assets are built when income is redirected toward things that generate future value, skills, systems, ownership, or scalable structures. This does not require extreme sacrifice. It requires consistency. Small, repeated reinvestments quietly build a foundation that grows stronger over time. Patience plays a major role here. Assets rarely provide immediate reward. This delay causes many people to abandon the process. The mental habit of patience allows you to continue even when feedback is slow. You understand that asset growth is gradual by nature. You stop expecting instant proof and start trusting structure. Another important habit is separating identity from income. Many people define themselves by how much they earn. This creates fear around change and risk. When income becomes identity, protecting it becomes more important than growing it. A healthier habit is defining identity by capability, not cash flow. This allows experimentation and adaptation without emotional collapse. Wealth-building habits also include regular review. Instead of ignoring finances or obsessing over them, you check in intentionally. You observe patterns. You adjust strategy. This habit prevents drift and keeps alignment strong. Money becomes something you manage consciously, not something that manages you. Real-life examples show how these habits work over time. Someone consistently reinvests small portions of income while maintaining stable expenses. Another spends every increase. Years later, one has options and leverage. The other feels pressure despite earning more. The difference was never income, it was habit. Turning income into assets requires mental discipline more than financial expertise. It requires resisting impulses that feel normal. It requires choosing delayed benefit over immediate satisfaction. These choices are quiet and often invisible, but they compound. Eventually, assets begin to support income instead of depending on it. Stability increases, pressure decreases, decisions feel less urgent. At this point, money stops being the central concern because structure has replaced stress. The mental habits that create assets are not dramatic. They are consistent, deliberate, and patient. When practiced over time, they transform income from something that passes through your hands into something that stays, grows, and supports your future. This is where wealth stops being something you chase and becomes something you build. One intentional decision at a time. Chapter Henthi. When your psychology finally matches millionaire results, there is a quiet point in the journey where effort no longer feels forced and progress no longer feels accidental. You begin to notice that your reactions have changed. Situations that once triggered fear now invite evaluation. Opportunities that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable. This is the moment when your psychology starts matching the results you have been working toward for years. Until this point, growth required conscious effort. You had to remind yourself to think long-term, to delay comfort, to control emotion, and to act strategically. But now, these behaviors begin to feel natural, not because life became easier, but because your internal framework became stronger. Your mindset finally supports the level of responsibility that success demands. When psychology aligns with results, decisions become calmer. You are no longer rushed by urgency or distracted by comparison. You trust your process because you understand how it works. Confidence is no longer emotional, it is structural. It comes from repetition, experience, and proof created over time. This alignment also changes how you view setbacks. Instead of questioning your worth or direction, you analyze variables. You adjust systems. You refine behavior. Failure loses its emotional charge and becomes informational. This detachment protects momentum and preserves clarity. Another sign of this alignment is patience. You stop needing immediate validation. You no longer measure progress daily. You allow time to do its work. This patience is not passive. It is anchored in trust. You trust yourself to continue, and you trust the structure you've built to produce outcomes. You also notice a shift in identity. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to succeed. You see yourself as someone building deliberately. This identity stabilizes behavior. You act consistently not because you are motivated, but because it reflects who you have become. As psychology and results align, external pressure fades. You are less influenced by trends, opinions, or urgency created by others. You filter information more carefully. You choose focus over noise. This selectivity preserves energy and sharpens direction. Wealth at this stage feels different. It no longer represents relief or escape. It represents alignment. Money becomes a reflection of how you think, plan, and execute. It feels earned not just through effort, but through maturity of judgment. This alignment also brings peace. You are no longer fighting yourself. Your actions and beliefs point in the same direction. Internal conflict reduces. Progress feels lighter, even when challenges remain. Eventually, results become predictable, not because outcomes are guaranteed, but because your response to any outcome is reliable. You know how to adjust. You know how to continue. This reliability is the true foundation of long-term success. As this journey comes to a close, remember this: wealth is not the reward for thinking differently once. It is the outcome of thinking differently consistently. When your psychology evolves, results follow naturally. And when your mindset finally matches the level you are aiming for, progress no longer feels fragile. It feels inevitable. If this audiobook helped reshape how you think about money, decisions, and long-term growth, support the channel by liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs a shift in perspective, and subscribing for more audiobooks designed to build clarity, discipline, and lasting success.